Hey, listen to Wrestling Roundup on FreeFM, ArrowFM, and NPR. As always, I'm Grady, and live on Skype we got Josh.
Hey.
We didn't get to talk a lot about NXT last week. We were talking a lot about the Money in the Bank stuff, so we're going to put a little bit of focus on the Black and Gold brand at the start of this show. And what better way to start off than with looking at their main event scene at the moment, you know? We knew that Samoa Joe would want to get his hands on people eventually, but even I didn't expect it to only last a couple months.
Yeah, we didn't expect it to last long, especially once they started going so heavy with the cross and stuff. It was only a matter of time. But yeah, so William Regal has to find him another enforcer, because unfortunately his enforcer resigned. Specifically so he can get an NXT title match.
It's a good reason to resign. It's just, you know, a bit of a shame. You were just starting to get some respect from to helping out Regal and everything, and now you're just going after the title.
Yeah, and Regal wanted to fire Karrion Kross, but decided, no, instead I'm going to let Joe kill him.
I think a firing might have been more merciful.
Yes. So this will be fun to watch. We'll see if Joe turns out to be the first 3-time NXT champion.
Yeah, there's a few pieces going for it, right, that presumably make that more likely. With obviously Joe coming back, he's a fairly hot act at the moment, and Karrion Kross, you know, appearing on the main roster makes it seem like his departure is imminent. Seems like the safe money is on as you say, on Joe's third title run. But this is the WWE, so you can never expect safe money to actually pay out.
Yeah. But one thing you can always count on is them to ignore anything that happens on any of the other brands when it comes to NXT.
It's true. It is true. But as soon as everybody starts hitting the roads, I don't know how much crossover is going to be possible time-wise if people are going to have to be flying back and forth and all around the place. So they might want to start getting a bit of separation where they can. Just don't know what's in the future, other than a Samoa Joe versus Karrion Kross match.
Yeah, people were up in arms last week over Kross losing in 2 minutes to Jeff Hardy, which I was fine with, because how many times have we seen an NXT guy be brought up, become a monster, like win a bunch of matches, and then nothing ever happens out of it?
A fair few.
Jeff Hardy has a name. Whether I like it or not, he will be a Hall of Famer. So them building a story to Karrion Kross to absolutely just demolishing Jeff Hardy will do more for him than him winning 100 matches against nobodies.
Yeah. It'll just be something that we got to keep an eye on as Raw continues to tick along. Obviously, Karrion Kross got the win against Keith Lee this week. And yeah, I just don't know what's happening. And so we got to keep watching.
Yeah, and Keith Lee continues to spiral downward. I'm hoping eventually that downward spiral leads him to the arms of MVP.
That's true. Those arms might be empty soon. So yeah, there's pieces that could happen. There's directions we could go. But at the moment, just with everything being in such a state of flux, you know, we've seen so many people move from NXT to the main roster. We've seen a couple move from the main roster over to NXT. You know, live crowds are coming back. We're starting to pull in a lot of surprises across the board. Things are just shifting a lot at the moment. And until things start to settle, we're just not going to know.
Yeah, talking about shifting, how about the persona of a certain female star that you like?
Oh, is this, are you trying to segue me? Oh, we're trying to segue into, are we staying on NXT?
Yeah, we're on NXT.
So it is the one I think it is?
Yeah, it was obvious. We're on NXT. I'm throwing you a bone here.
Look, I that happens so few times that I'm not used to this. I don't know how to react. But you are correct. Dakota Kai did turn, as we'd expected for a while now, on Raquel Gonzales and states that she's next.
Yep, she had a face turn. She's not a heel anymore.
That's debatable. I don't know the alignment of these two.
Well, she was cheered by the crowd, so...
That's true. She is beloved.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. Could Dakota get herself a singles title? That's very interesting.
I feel like it would be very disappointing if she did not. And maybe that's coming from a biased fan's point of view. But it seems like there was, there was a good time to do it previously, and they failed to. And now another time is coming along. There's a good story here, something you can build. Will she win the first match? Maybe not, but there's just something here, and you could tell from the crowd reaction that people want to see it. That's what I'm telling myself in the back of my head. To try and convince myself that maybe this time they will actually go with it and let her have the title.
Yeah, I mean, Raquel's had it for a few months, so it wouldn't be that big of a deal for her to lose it. And it would really crank forward on that heel face turn for Dakota to finally attain that title after having her arm snapped several times by Shayna when she tried it previously.
Yeah. And since you were so nice to throw me a bone and let me talk about one of my guys, I'll throw you a bone and I'll let you talk about one of your guys, Josh Briggs.
Well, that tournament is dead to me now. I don't care anymore.
Come on, Duke Hudson's still in it. You gotta show some love to my boy Duke. But yeah, we got the semi-finals of the breakout tournament continuing next week, and I believe the week after.
Next week is another first round match.
Oh, is this to one more? The tournament itself's continuing. Unfortunately, Carmelo did defeat Briggs, which was honestly a big surprise. I expected Josh to at least make it into the semi-finals, where maybe Duke would eliminate him, but hey, it is the direction they went, and now I have all the support for Duke, because you can't support Josh anymore, therefore you automatically default to my guy. That's how it works.
Or I default to not supporting anybody.
Nope. Duke needs your support. Raise your hands and give him your energy. Wow, there's so much still on NXT to hit. We can still hit some of this. Ridge Holland makes his return.
He still looks as badass as he was when he left, before he got injured. Kind of needs to picked up the storyline from there, with Pat not in NXT anymore. That's going to be interesting how that plays out.
What are you talking about? Ridge is just Pat. They're the same person. You cannot convince me otherwise. I've seen them both in a room together, and I still believe they're the same person. But yeah, Ridge sort of just, as you say, picked straight back up with Pete Dunne and with Oney Lorcan, and unfortunately, Oney Lorcan's tag team partner out with injury as well. It leaves them with just, the trio of them. But they are going after Ciampa and Thatcher seemingly at the moment, for whatever reason that happens to be. I do want to give a little bit of time as well to the way, mainly because it seems as though their little boy's gone lost. He's run away from home.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened to Austin Theory, but this whole storyline with Indy Hartwell and Dexter Loomis is quite interesting, the way it's playing out.
Well, it's all going to come to a head next week with Johnny Gargano versus Dexter Loomis. I believe the match type, and I'm not going to Google this, I'm just going to say that I'm right, is a love her or leave her match. And I'm just fingers crossing that love wins out and that Indy and Dexter are together after it.
You realize that if that happens, the way is broken.
They're already broken, okay? Austin already ran away from home. Dexter can just assimilate and be a part of the family. That's the picture he drew this week, was the four of them together without Austin, weirdly, as a family.
Yeah, this is just one really strange storyline. But yeah, the way is pretty much only Gargano and LeRae at this point.
I'm sure Dexter will be a lovely boyfriend who will come to family dinners and be absolutely normal.
Certainly not named after serial killers or anything like that. Or a known serial kidnapper.
Maybe that's where Austin went. He got kidnapped again. Who knows what's happening with Austin, but yeah, the way you can keep going. They got this. I believe in them. But we'll have to see next week what happens with Indy and with Dexter, and can they continue? Is it all over? What's gonna happen? Does Johnny have a change of heart? We just don't know. Is there anything else from the Black and Gold brand in the last few weeks or even earlier that we want to run through? We know that Cameron Grimes has been a real annoying butler to LA Knight.
Yeah, got a hole-in-one in more than one way on this week's NXT.
Doing exactly what we thought they'd be doing. Just having some good old banter, good old video package stuff. Yeah.
And we've got the grizzled young veterans involved in this now.
Okay.
Yes, this is just interesting. It's kind of like building up. I think it's building further and further towards a portrayal of LA Knight by Cameron Grimes. But we have to get there. And one of the things they did was they had Ted DiBiase like, "You're a man. Be a man," kind of thing. Sometimes you have to defend your pride. And so it's like, they're definitely pushing him towards taking the title from him. It's just a matter of how many more weeks do we have to go to get there.
Mm-hmm.
But in the meantime, I'm going to enjoy the heck out of these video packages because they're just absolutely some of the funniest stuff that they've come out with in years for WWE.
Well, that is certainly high praise, but we are now halfway through our episode this week, and that means it is time for our entrance theme. And this week, in celebration of his return to the active roster, we are going to be playing the theme of Samoa Joe for you right about now. And you're back with Wrestling Roundup on FreeFM, ArrowFM, and NPR. I'm Grady, he's Josh, and now let's put some time towards the red and blue brands. We're starting to see SummerSlam build up. We know we're probably going to be getting some Roman Reigns versus John Cena. We know we're probably going to be getting some Bobby Lashley versus Goldberg, some Edge versus Seth Rollins, and Our big boy matches are at least starting to be penciled down.
Yeah, although certainly not exactly yet set in stone on what we know is coming. For example, on SmackDown last week, Roman Reigns rejected John Cena's challenge.
That's true.
Instead saying he wants to face Finn Balor. So, which I think is happening on this week's episode, so I don't know. We had the WWE champion, completely blow off Goldberg. So, again, we know these matches are going to happen, just how are we going to get them?
Yeah, it's a little refreshing to not just have a person walk in, demand a title shot, and get the title shot. As you say, I don't know how Cena and Goldberg are going to end up with these, but they're not just being handed them yet.
Yes, definitely. And then there's also always the reminder that the briefcase is not far behind.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we had maybe Roman Reigns' best promo yet in WWE, and it has just shown how far his character has evolved since 4 years ago when he challenged Cena last.
Yeah. I think I'm definitely going to be enjoying the Reigns Cena this time round a lot more than last time. You mentioned Finn Balor there as a possible opponent for Roman Reigns. He's coming back with a bang.
Yeah, he's at least in the upper echelon on SmackDown as being injected in that area right away. Yeah, I do think he's a stepping stone to Cena, which is kind of sad, but when you have a champion as strong as Roman, do you really think the human Balor is going to be able to stop Roman Reigns?
It's a hard one, right? Because, losing to Roman Reigns isn't anything super bad. As you say, he's been taking out guys left, right, and center. But it may shake his momentum a little bit after coming back to the main roster, picking up a few wins. Like, if it is next week that they have their match, that's his second match back on SmackDown, right? So as long as this isn't, the end of the storylines and he gets another storyline after this and can keep momentum rolling afterwards, then I think we'll be totally fine with Finn. As long as he doesn't fall off the face of the planet, basically.
Yeah, I don't expect that. Balor's a big enough star. I think he'll be somewhere around upper mid-card, regardless of what happens after he loses to Roman.
Mm.
There's a pretty active Intercontinental Championship scene right now. They could just slide him into that.
Yeah, that's fair. Balor has a few options on where he could go. Or maybe he just wins the title off Roman Reigns, and we're all shocked.
Yes, that would shock me, and I would not necessarily say it would be a good thing, though.
No. Some shocks are good, some shocks are not.
Some shocks are on the level of the Shockmaster. I would say probably the second best storyline right now is the whole Bad Luck Baron stuff.
Mm.
You had Corbin actually seeming human for a moment, and he apologized to Kevin Owens for stuff he did to him.
To be fair, I think he just wanted a little bit of money, but yes, he did apologize.
Yeah, and he did get some money. Unfortunately for him, Shotzi came out and Tegan Knox accidentally hit him in the groin with a rocket, and Rudy Ziggler stole the money. So, more bad luck for Bad Luck Corbin.
Yeah, they're definitely doing something here. And, for someone like Baron who had this King character for so long, it was just sort of doing the same thing over and over, a nice, reliable and steady talent. It's cool to see him get something that's, a little bit different, a little bit of a focus, a little bit of a shake-up. Because I still love the guy.
Yeah, I've said for a while, I think if they do it right, he could definitely be one of the most over faces in the company, because he is technically not a bad guy. At least from what we saw on Breaking Ground. And so I think he can definitely translate that. And I think this is the beginning of that. And I think he's going to be a major player over the next 7-8 months. Once they get to the point where he's not having his bad luck anymore, they're going to shoot him towards the moon. It's very likely he could be the one that takes the Intercontinental title off of Apollo Crews.
Yeah, I could see it. You mentioned the Shockmaster as well, just a couple minutes ago. Someone who didn't have a debut like the Shockmaster, Toni Storm.
Yeah, she rained on Zelina's Vegas parade.
Yeah, coming in hot and just taking out the returning Zelina Vega, who, despite returning to much fanfare, has yet to gain a whole lot of momentum in her return just yet.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it's more about it's Tony time.
It's always been Tony time, but now it is really Tony time. And SmackDown's women's division is in that sort of state of flux. We talked about a lot of stuff changing up, a lot of things happening left, right, and center, and this is definitely an example of that. And at the moment, we just sort of shaking it up and letting see where the chips fall. Who's going to fall into that upper echelon, who's going to fall a little bit lower, and where the next championship contender is going to come from.
Yeah, because Carmella lost again.
Which will presumably be her last shot. Usually if you lose 2 in a row, unless you're Kevin Owens going up against Roman Reigns, that's the end of it.
Or Bayley.
That's true. It leaves SummerSlam open.
Yeah. I'm really not sure at all what their next opponent is going to be. Because Bianca is starting to get to a position where she's beaten some of the bigger names. So, are some of the fringe people going to start facing her, or is a certain blue-dyed hair person coming back to face her at SummerSlam?
Yeah.
Or could it even be a certain redhead dyed person returning to face her?
You got me there for a second. I almost couldn't think of it just because I switched to my Raw notes already and it had Eva Marie there. And I was like, you don't mean that, do you? Yeah, there's definitely some openings. Obviously, what I would have... Like, if you'd asked me 3 months ago what the match was going to be, it would be a Sasha Banks, Bianca Belair rematch at SummerSlam. They just haven't really laid down any hints towards that, and SummerSlam's only 3 or 4 weeks away now. So if that is the direction they're going, or if Becky's the direction they're going, whichever direction they're going, they have to start building now that presumably Carmella is off the plate.
Yeah, one thing that they've already started building on, though, is locked in stone is Edge and Seth. We know we're getting that for sure because they're brawling, they're dressing each other, they're attacking each other. Rollins running away from him, stuff like that. We know we're getting these two for sure. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's not going to be any, well, we have to do this to get this to occur logically. It's a match made in heaven because of the story was already there, and they just went with it.
It was something we've been waiting for, and as you say, they just went with it. And I see a little bit of parallels with something that's happening over on Raw as well with Drew McIntyre and Jinder Mahal. The storyline is there. We'd been expecting them to take it for a little while. Now they're pulling the trigger, and Drew McIntyre's beating the ever-loving tar out of everybody on his way there. Very sort of similar thing, and I'd say that's set in stone as well.
Yep, definitely. We'll have to see. We'll have to see where they go and how far they're willing to go with this. But it's a match we wanted to see since Edge returned, and we're going to get it.
And we don't have a whole lot of time left. We got about a minute and a half to talk about some stuff from Raw, so I'll just talk about probably the most important part. We do have the most set in stone thing. Our Raw Women's Championship match is actually booked and written down in pen. It's inked for SummerSlam. It will be Nikki Ash defending against Charlotte Flair and Rhea Ripley in a triple threat match.
Not really that big of a surprise. But this is Nikki's moment to get her gimmick over. And Charlotte can just command... Just the way she commanded the crowd was just it was just amazing. So we get a really good triple threat match, and then hopefully Nikki keeps going with her title reign until the eventual challenging from our resident Harley Quinn.
I don't know, Harley Quinn didn't have magical superpowers. But yeah, that is presumably the collision that we just have to wait for. And then, as we run out of time this week, I'm just going to give GIF of the Week, this brand new segment that I just made up on the spot, to Reginald. Man does some cool backflips, or round-offs. But yeah, that is all we have time for this week. It's been great talking to you.
Maybe.
You can visit our Facebook page, facebook.com/WrestlingRNDup, or our Twitter page, twitter.com/WrestlingRNDup, or our YouTube page, youtube.com/WrestlingRNDup, and we'll see you next week.